All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Johnny D here. For this next video, it's going to be part one of a three-part series on how to build a gaming PC. This series is targeted for the beginner or first-time builder. We're going to be using the LGA 1700 platform, so kind of an intro before the intro. So with that said, if that's what you're looking for, here's part one. Johnny D here, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to take you through how to build a computer, a step-by-step process on how to put all the components together, all the way up to final build process, to installing Windows, to updating the BIOS, to downloading the motherboard software, to setting up the ARGB. This is an A to Z how-to guide. And if that's what you're looking for, this should be the only guide you need for 2024. So stick with me and we'll get to it. So, a few things you're going to need. Number one, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver. You're going to need a tiny Phillips screwdriver. You're going to need a razor blade, knife, or scissors to open up the boxes. And you're also going to need a USB drive. Now, there are some basic components that you're going to need to build your computer. So we are going to assume a few things that you've already went out and purchased those. And now you just need to know how to put them together. So to start with, you're definitely going to need a CPU. Today we're going with the i3 12100F. You're going to need a CPU cooler. This comes with a free cooler, so we're going to use that free cooler. You're also going to need a motherboard. So today we're going to use this ASRock B660M Pro motherboard. On that motherboard, you're going to need to install storage. So we're going to use this King Spec M.2 NVMe. You're going to need some RAM. So today we have some T-Force RAM. And of course, you're going to need a power supply. So we're going to go with this PowerSpec white power supply, 650 watts. And obviously we'll need a graphics card. So today we'll go with the RX 6650 XT. And of course, you're going to need a case to house all this beautiful equipment in. So today we have the Montech Air 100 ARGB White Edition. Now I picked this case because it's a very popular case, number one. Number two, I'm getting a lot of comments for help on certain items. So I figured, let's just do a full build guide. Now, it's impossible for me to answer every possible problem that could occur, but I guarantee if you follow these steps, you'll definitely have a great experience. So, a couple other items. So today's build is really not about the cost, but about the process and the how-to. But if you're curious, right here we have about $620 worth of parts. We're not adding any extras, no cable extensions. We're not upgrading the CPU cooler. I mean, by all means you can, but we're just going basic installation. So with that said, let's how to. So for the motherboard, we went with a Micro ATX motherboard. This is the B660M Pro RS by ASRock. You can consistently pick these up for $88 to $92 on Newegg and Amazon. So it's a good starter board. It has a lot of features on it. It's the LGA 1700 socket. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. I'm going to pair that with the Intel Core i3 12100F. This is a quad-core chip. It's entry-level chip. It will do a very nice job in getting you up and running in gaming. Don't let the quad cores fool you. They are very, very powerful for such a little chip. So we'll take you through installation on that. For the CPU cooler, the i3 does come with a free CPU cooler, so we'll be using that. We're going to keep this as basic and simple as possible. Things that I recommend. Number one, if you're on carpet, make sure you have on sneakers. Don't stand on carpet with socks on because you could build up a charge and potentially hurt your motherboard. And if you're really worried about that, you can wear rubber gloves. They do have anti-static bracelets that attach to the desk. Feel free to go that route. So let's take a look at our motherboard here. Let's see here. This is the ASRock Pro Series V660M. So as we open up the motherboard, this is a brand new motherboard. So here you go. So it's going to come with a user manual, which is very important, especially first time. It actually comes with a user disc, but nobody uses them anymore. It's going to come with a SATA cable. It's going to come with some standoffs for your M.2 and some screw downs for your M.2. Keep those, you might need those. It's going to come with the I/O shield that we'll have to install. What else we got in here? Another standoff. And then let's go ahead and open her up here. So I recommend to use the box to build on with this. So let's go ahead and open her up. Pull her out here. Love that crinkle, right? You notice there's a foam pad on the back. I would just leave it on there. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to bend any of these pins. So putting it down on the desk and then pushing into it could possibly bend them. So we'll go ahead and leave that nice little foam on there. All right, so the first things that we're going to do is we're going to take this lever here. We're going to push down on it, pull to the side, and lift up. Now we're going to lift this up. So what that's done is it's going to expose the socket. That's where the CPU is going to go. There is an arrow here on the socket protector. That's telling you to line the arrow up on the chip with that corner. So if we look that there's an arrow on the chip. So let's go ahead and move that out. I'm going to turn it so you can see it. Basically, I'm going to drop the chip in. Like that. Give it a little wiggle, no pressure. Another good way with the 12th, 13th, and 14th gen, with this being on your left, you can read the imprints on the chip, i3-12100F, from left to right. That's another way to know that you're putting the chip in correctly. There's really only two ways you can put it in, either upside down or correct. There you go. So once you're happy that that's in there, we're going to lower this down. And it's important that that's normal, that's going to pop out. So we move that. At this, go over those two feet there. So once they catch, now this is going to take some force. Don't be scared. Push it down under that bar, and your chip is installed. It's that simple. We're going to install the storage, the M.2. So like I said, this is a king spec 1 terabyte SSD. I literally picked up the cheapest one I could find on Newegg, and we struck gold here. This is a 7,000 reads per second here. Geez, 7,000 1 terabyte. Picked this up $43 on sale at Newegg. You don't have to go with this one. As I said, just pick up the cheapest Gen 4 M.2 that you can find. I think the minimum speed you would be looking for, don't get anything under 2,800 mega transfers per second. Anything over that would be fine for your first build and for what we're doing here today. You notice it comes with a little screw. You won't need that for this motherboard, but always good to have. Let's go ahead and open this up. All right. So this is the Kingspec 100, or this is the XG 7000. Now, a couple of things to point out here. So you notice that there's only one. Let's really move in here. There's only one notch in it. That's what you want. If there's two notches in it, it's not a true M.2. It's an SSD. It's a SATA connection, and you don't want to purchase that. It's old technology, and it's going to give you nothing but trouble. And they're really, really slow. And they're the same price as a Gen 4 cheap SSD. So I highly recommend you stay away from those and you go with an M.2 with only the one notch. Something to keep in mind as you're going through your teeny tiny screwdriver. So we're going to put this in the top slot here because it's a Gen 4 slot. And we need our teeny tiny screwdriver to take out these pins. I don't remember if these were captive or not, but we'll find out soon enough. We're going to go ahead and pull that off. And this is where we're going to slide in our M.2. And the back is going to rest on this notch. Now notice that we have a heat sink back here. So there's plastic on this. So please remember to remove that plastic. So let's do that now while we're thinking of it. Remove that plastic. Very important. M.2. So the notch is going to go in here. You're going to put this in on about a 45-degree angle right on the top. You're going to push it in until it disappears all the way down. Then you're going to push this down like so. And unfortunately, it's not a toolless cap there. So we'll try to put this one in first. See if it caught. So it's important here not to over tighten these. Just tighten them down until it gets a little tight. And that's really all you need to do. And there, now we've installed the M.2. We have the CPU installed. We have the M.2 installed. Now next is a good time to do the RAM. So let's take a look at the RAM. Extreme. This is a DDR4 set because this is a DDR4 motherboard. DDR5 RAM, DDR4, they are not interchangeable. They're different. They will not fit in each other's board. So you cannot put DDR5 into a DDR4 motherboard and vice versa. You can't put DDR4 into a DDR5 motherboard. They're not interchangeable. You basically need 16 gigs of 3200 megahertz RAM. So they have kits out there for $33, $34. I'll put some links down in the description for them. That's really the route that I would go personally, because these are a little expensive because of the ARGB and the heat sinks on here. You're paying for aesthetics here. Yeah. So let's go ahead and install it. We're going with 2 sticks here. If you were going with 4 sticks, it really wouldn't matter. You're just going to fill them all up. But we're going for 2 sticks. So we want to put them into the first slot here. So let's go ahead and open that up. And the third slot. And let's go ahead and open that up. That way we're running in dual channel. So very important here as I turn that we match up this groove with the groove in the socket. And as you can see, this should match up pretty good. And we put them down on the line. Now, it's going to take some force here, so don't be scared. And you'll hear a click. There's your click. Now, notice that this has gone all the way up. If this was still like that, you haven't seated the RAM properly. So let's go ahead and do the next one. Take 2 thumbs on either side. push down. It's going to take some force. There's your click. These are tight. These are tight. So these should be seated properly. And we have just installed our RAM. Now, there's only kind enough to supply you with a free CPU cooler that comes in the box. It comes pre-applied with thermal paste, so you don't need to buy thermal paste. You're all set here. It's very easy to install. It really just, if you look at your motherboard, I'll lift it up, you'll see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. And basically these pins just fit in those holes. And what you do is you push them down and turn. And it's that simple. So I will try to give you a close-up of this. Let me move the camera in. It really doesn't matter which way you go in because they are evenly spaced. So we just really want to line up these holes like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to push down opposite corners, okay? Ready? 1, 2. Hear that click? And we're going to push down on opposite corners again. And that's those clicks. That's it. So what we can do, flip the board over and make sure that these pins have come through the holes. And they have. Now we've installed our cooler. It was that simple. Let's put this back on the motherboard. So we have one more thing to do here. We need to hook up the fan header. Now, on this motherboard, the fan header is actually up here. So I am going to turn it to show you. So we have the CPU fan and the CPU option fan. We want to plug in this cooler to this first pin. Now, if you notice, it's a 4-pin and it has this little slot on it. So this slot basically just going to fit over like that. And that's all there is to it. Very simple. And you can hide the cable if you want. A lot of people just tuck it down. And basically that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to tuck it down like so. And you'll be fine. So now our motherboard is set and ready for installing into the case. So let's just quick review. We will put in the CPU. We put in the M.2 or NVMe drive. We put in our 16 gigabytes of RAM. And we put in our CPU cooler. And we hooked up the fan header for the CPU cooler. And that's all there is to it. This is the Montech Air 100 ARGB. This is a micro ATX case. I think currently at the time of the video it's going for like $66, $67. So a micro ATX case, very important, will only fit a micro ATX motherboard or an ITX motherboard, which is much smaller than this. It will not fit a full ATX motherboard, which is quite long. So keep that in mind. So basically, we want to strip this down a bit. So let's open up the doors, lift up, let's remove the glass. Get that out of the way. Let's turn it around, remove these. They're not captive, so put them aside, pull this off. Let's get that out of the way. Okay. So let's look at the back. A lot of wires back here, but the important thing is down here in the bottom, somewhere, probably in a hard drive cage or something, there's going to be a box. Either white, may not look like this, but there's going to be a box with a bag of screws. You need those screws, so take that box out. Box, you'll find a bag of screws. So what you need to do is get yourself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're going to need 8 motherboard screws, and they're going to look something like this. and then I'll zoom in on it in a minute. And we can put the rest aside. Now in that bag, there's extra standoff. There's long screws for screwing down fans. There's all kinds of stuff. But the important part is to get the screws that are going to fit into these standoffs. Right. Let me bring you in closer. So here is the close-up view of your case. So Montech does a good job. If you can see, you have a standoff here, you have one here, you have one here, 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 up here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 standoffs. So the important part is in that bag of screws is to fish out 8 of these screws. And before you go any further, make sure they fit into these standoffs, which they do. So you need 8 like screws and then set them aside. All right. Let's move around to the back here. In the back, as you can see, I've already broken off the top 2 slots. So for this case and the card that we're using today, the 2-slot card, we need the top 2 slots free. So on the cheaper cases, these are actually break-offs. So I recommend that you break them off before you put the motherboard in, because the motherboard is going to be right up against them, and you could possibly damage and scratch the motherboard, which I have done before. So once you've broken off those slots, I'm going to go ahead and move back a little bit. You take your motherboard. Now you can hold your motherboard by the fan like this, okay? But first things first, the I/O shield. You need to put the I/O shield into the computer, right? So the motherboard is going to go in like this. So these pretty much going to fit like that, okay? And there you go. We're in, okay? That's step 1. The easiest way to do this is to lay down the case like so, okay? I'm going to leave it up so you can see what I'm doing. So you notice that we have a fan here, right? And we have some wires. You need to be careful, get these wires out of the way. We don't want to pinch those wires. So I'm going to take our motherboard, put it in, line it up. I'll line it up with these holes, and we're going to line it up with that I/O shield. Go ahead and put the first screw in. That's going to hold the motherboard in place. And now we're going to put the rest of the screws in. So it's going to be 3 across the top, 3 across the middle, 2 across the bottom, for a total of 8 screws on this micro ATX motherboard. So, like I was saying, so I lost the screws, so I used a different one. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3 across the top, 3 across the middle, 2 across the bottom, total of 8 screws, and your motherboard is now installed. All right, let's wrap this up. So that's the end of part 1. I'm going to release part 1 and part 2 right at the same time. So you'll see part 2 in the recommended videos at the end of the video. But here's a tip for you. If you need more help on picking your parts, I'm going to recommend somebody for you. PC Builder, his name is Jason. I'll put him up on the screen and leave a few links down in the description to his website. Very knowledgeable. Can help you pick your PC parts, tells you what's good, what's bad, what parts work well together. So I definitely recommend you check him out. Check him out. And on that note, if you like what I'm doing, thumbs up, please. And if you really like what I'm doing, you should subscribe so you get notified when I create new content. And that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and it helped you out. And as always, you have a good day and thanks for watching. Bye now.